Patrick.
Good Chair, and thank you both very much for that really compelling presentation. And apologies, I was a little late to it. But it's, as the others have said, it makes for a grim listening to hear the scale of the humanitarian catastrophe, and I think you've given us a really clear picture of it, and the focus on the gendered aspect, on the devastating impacts on women and children in particular, that really brings it home. I'm struck, as others have been, by your comment that the only real solution is a political one, and I would obviously support what Deputy Barrett has said, that I think we're your asks are very reasonable. I think we as a committee chair should absolutely write to the Minister to request the update and to seek to use Ireland's influence. And I note you've got a specific request also that the Oireachtas should direct his department to use the embassy in Saudi Arabia to convene a meeting with the Saudi counterparts. So I think we should include that in our letter as well. Now, we do have an update from the Department of Foreign Affairs, and I note that we've been told the Taoiseach met with the Saudi ambassador in October 2018 and in February 2019, so quite recently, to stress Ireland's concerns around humanitarian access. We haven't been told whether our embassy in Saudi has made representations there, so I think maybe we should emphasise that. Clearly there's been a huge focus on Saudi as a key player in this and arms sales to Saudi. So I suppose I have two questions. One is whether we can do more as a small country within the EU to press our EU partners to discontinue our arms sales, particularly to Saudi, but also to the UAE and Egypt and indeed to Iran, all of whom are also players in the conflict. So can we do more on that front? I know the UK is there's been a lot of focus on British sales, but on other EU countries as well. And secondly, just in terms of those other players, UAE, Egypt and Iran, what more can we do there? And again, we've been told the Department has conveyed to the Iranian embassy here Ireland's strong concerns on the safety of civilians and compliance with international humanitarian law, but we haven't been told whether any representations have been made by Ireland to the UAE or to Egypt. So I wonder if you have any comment on that. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Senator Patrick. Dina?
Yeah, just to say, in relation to the other countries with leverage in relation to the conflict in Yemen, Iran and UAE, definitely I think in relation to UAE, the similar messages that are going to Saudi Arabia, those are the types of messages need to go to UAE as well. In relation to Iran, and I think it's important to note that the advocacy in relation to Saudi Arabia and UAE is only likely to be successful if we're equally addressing other parties with leverage to all sides in the conflict. And as such, it's important that we do not know, for example, what Iran is doing in relation to pushing the Houthi authorities in the north on access, on other issues that are being faced. And I think it's important that that is also equally applied as well. At the end of the day, the transfer of arms are happening to all sides of the conflict. It's not happening to one side and not the other. So that message, I think, needs to go across the board. In relation to UAE, I think it's important. We know that UAE is playing an important role in the south of Yemen in particular, but also it's important to note that the impact of the conflict is not only affecting the north and the sort of the conflict areas in the north, but is having a devastating impact across the country, even in parts of the country in the south where there's actually no live conflict. And I think that's an important point to note, that it's not a question of for example, the US, for example, will say that this is important to fight Al-Qaeda, because actually the whole country is now in a situation where people are starving and cholera is rampant, etc. So it's important to show the impact, the humanitarian impact of the conflict as a whole, of arms transfers across the country. And in relation to Egypt, again, that's a question. It's part of the coalition, so all members of the coalition, I think, will need to be addressed in that respect. Thank you.
Done by Oxfam and by other agencies on the ground.
Thank you.